and welcome to Mead Gaming's podcast, which is now a weekly feature, currently, sort of. So today, I have with me, on my left up the top here,
John,
and just down here,
Joe.
Hi guys, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and sadly today, Els won't be with us. She's off working, earning the monies, so that we can be here chatting Warhammer.
Earning that Warhammer dollar.
Indeed. So, today we're going to mix things up a little bit. We're going to be having a show and tell of things that I've been working on as part of our main discussion. Featuring, so continuing on from the last couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at some new rules in terms of missions and scoring. We should hope, which myself and Els have been playtesting quite a lot, and I shall hopefully be introducing the team to very soon. So they're sort of pre-playtested a little bit. In fact, you can probably see just behind me there a table set up.
I can, yeah.
Which is also a little hint for some pictures that I will be sharing in the near future on an upcoming Tankard Talk, but not today.
Very exciting.
Very nice.
But for today, we do obviously have a Tankard Talk. So, shall we move over into that area? Welcome back. So, Tankard Talk today is going to be focused a bit more on you two, actually, because I haven't done too much in terms of model painting. There's been a lot of terrain painting and stuff like that.
I was going to say, you have not sat idly by in this time.
No, and I will be sharing the terrain content, but I'm going to say that for next week because that might link into another potential topic for next week. So, terrain may be a theme. Just
exciting.
So, let's pop over to our display camera and have a look at what you guys have been up to. And I think I'm gonna start this off by saying that I think my team need to have a serious talking to.
I've got no idea what you mean.
They both know exactly what I mean.
I don't have a defense. Carry on.
So, first up on the agenda, or chopping block, depending on your perspective. What on earth is this?
What could that possibly be?
It's what I've currently been working on. I've got a whole little troop of them.
It's not looking very Eldari.
No, it's not.
It's a craft world that we've not heard of before. They're dark mechanic.
yeah, maybe might have done a little bit of a switch.
A little bit of a switch.
This
doesn't feel like a little bit of a switch.
There's a story behind this, Joe, which I will let you elucidate.
Well, yeah. So you know, we were chatting about. I've been thinking about sort of my army and things, and like Eldar are very they are very small, even like at Legion scale, and like the models are absolutely tiny, and like painting them is such pain so far. And then so I was speaking to John, and I floated the idea of maybe going back to White Scars and having a look at doing that. And then John helpfully reminded me that the Dark Mechanicum exist in Legions, and it would be, a little bit more sort of different for that to have that army as opposed to another Space Marine force. So
yeah.
So my question then is, obviously, your initial thought there, or initial point, was you didn't like painting the little guys. That's the impression I'm getting.
Yeah.
Now, was it specifically the Eldar little guys, or is it just the little infantry that we're having problems with?
It's the Eldar ones, because they are absolutely, like, even for like, it sounds ridiculous to say they're tiny when it's like Legion scale, but they are like half the size of a Space Marine. So like,
right, okay. So is this also going to lead to? Are we going to see dark mech infantry?
Oh yeah,
yeah, okay.
Oh yeah. No, these are the files that were free. But when payday comes around,
I take it there's more on the horizon.
There may be a whole 3,000 point list planned.
Very nice. Okay, and I'm guessing by the looks of this, it could be quite walker heavy.
Yeah,
okay,
that's the plan.
I mean, that sounds like fun for me, because that's something for my knights to chew into.
Absolutely.
Could we see some dark mecha-line titans?
Absolutely.
Ooh, now
and some knights, hopefully, as well.
Okay, cool.
I know when we were chatting about it, it was going to be lean hard into the Mechanicum Knights and that kind of like, at least that vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
from a knight perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
But I did also attempt to, well, not so much. Sway is the wrong word, but when we were talking about the idea of painting stuff, I was like, oh, Dark Mechanicus, and Joe's response was, but that's even more harder, tiny details, and I was like, it's not really, because Mechanicus at this scale is everything silver, and then just do it with washes, and then do panels for whatever else you've got.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've painted a hell of a lot of Titans and Knights, so I can probably give you a few tips on how to do it quite quickly and effectively.
Yeah.
You've seen how quickly I can paint them.
Yeah.
And whilst I love the white scars, I don't want to the descent into madness that is white at any scale.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Painting white at any scale is horrendous. I've been trying to do it at two different scale sizes, and I hate it in both regards. I wouldn't want to do an army. I begrudge characters.
White is what would put me off doing white scars, even though I've become a massive fan of Jagatai.
Yeah.
Super
it's
cool.
A shame.
Just not looks great. Looks great. The idea of the white, and there are some I have, and unfortunately, not one of the pictures I sent, but to talk about, I have pulled off one model in white that I am happy with, and it is only one model I am genuinely happy with how I did it in white, and I don't think I can ever recreate this because I think just the gods of painting descended that day and were like, you get one freebie. Here's your one, and it will stay in your head as like, I can't ever redo this. Which was I went with a mate to the GW store. They hadn't ever tried painting before. They were like, we're going to sit down and have a go at the painting. And I was like, yeah, I'll come along. The guys, have you done it before? And I was like, yes. But the people that you lot would disagree that I've done painting before. But I have done individual model painting before. So he was giving all the instructions. I was like, what have I got in front of me? And I was like, I'm going to try doing a Sons of the Phoenix in a GW store. So white armor with purple arm, gold trim, and all that kind of stuff.
I remember you showing us that model, and it is beautiful. You'll have to.
Yeah.
You might have to drag that out for next week.
But it was just like, I've got some Corax white. I've got a dry brush. Let's see what happens. And just this wonderful weathered white effect came across. I was like, oh no, I can't ever redo this. This is this is a magnum opus that I can never reach again.
So I suppose obviously because these are unpainted yet, do we have a colour scheme in mind?
So I'm thinking of purple for the panels.
Okay. Is that a little hint at a certain character you may have already got?
No.
Okay. I'm just thinking of a certain technically 30k model I know you now possess.
Yeah.
I mean,
coincidence, but
there could be some fun alignment there. But
yeah, absolutely.
A future crossover, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
There would.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it would be something delightfully, delightful in the idea of Slanesh aligned Mechanicus.
Absolutely, yeah.
I did see, and again, I will drag the pictures out at some point to send because I won't find them quickly now. In the alternative timeline ideas, somebody has done a set based off of the new Empress Jordan stuff that's coming out. Iron Hands. It was if the Iron Hands were the ones that fell to Slanesh.
Okay.
That's interesting.
And it's the one that absolutely sells it to me is the idea of it basically almost it's like a Terminator Captain, but the entire head is replaced with one of the noise cannons from the Noise Marines.
Oh, nice.
Interesting.
They're super teched up. I will dig out the I'll dig out the pictures and send them across on it. Yeah, but yeah, they're. I was I can see something in that as as a fun crossover.
I'd love to do a conversion project where we just do alternative heresy one day.
Oh yeah, that'd be really good.
That is definitely a thought for another day. I'm just trying to think of what I wouldn't want to do the obvious ones. We'd have to do something weird with them.
Yeah, I mean, I already have envisionings of doing redesigning my previous idea of the Thousand Sons Blood Angels.
Thousand Sons Blood Angels, sort of Zinchi Blood Angels.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, would this not go perfectly with a different project that we also had in mind regarding certain other Primarchs?
Hang on, we've got so many projects in mind.
We do have so many. Sorry, we do have so many ideas. The one of each of us obtaining.
Yes, that would be interesting.
That would be a fascinating one to pick from there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a very different take.
And we would definitely have to, make sure we don't pick the typical answers. I don't. None of the Space Wolf corn or anything like that.
No, definitely something different. Okay.
Something unique, something interesting.
Fun. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you, Joe, for sharing some future models and a new army, which I'm both excited and disheartened at the same time. One day, someone else on my team will actually paint an army. Someday.
You know, look, I painted the 40k one.
We're not getting into that again.
Yeah, that was a cheat.
Yeah. When it took how many paints to do an army?
6.
I have more paint on one of my Legions armies. And I have 5.
Yeah. Per model, it was about 2.
I think it was 3 in fairness.
Okay, but it was also a case of there was very little leaning into any details. It was a teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, teeth and tail. I need to be correct. Teeth and tail. It was everything gets one coat, one thick coat, and then teeth and tail.
Yeah.
Duncan Rhodes spinning in his metaphorical grave.
So yes, one day, someone else will have an army.
Yeah,
maybe.
Although I have a funny feeling I'm going to end up painting them all at this rate. Right. So speaking of painting armies and other schemes, John, what have we been working on?
His little blade guard, isn't it?
That does look like a little blade guard.
His little blade guard.
It seems to follow a certain theme that we noticed from last episode.
Yeah, well, so I made the lion last time, and I was worried he might get lonely, so I painted some friends to go along the lion, just to make sure he didn't get lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to defend myself, but the allure of the 3 wings in 40k style for the Dark Angels has gotten to me, and I started to put them together, and I was like, oh, I really quite like how this looks, and had some narrative ideas for doing an X like the remnants of Caliban like knight households as a knight household, going in like hard into the lion motif. And then I chatted to you, and I was like, well, if I did lion knights, you're doing black and red dragon knights. There's a certain other franchise that this is giving you strong vibes for as well, you know.
Yeah, a franchise that's not already been hinted at by the name of Iron Knights either.
No, not at all. Yes, the Knight Household Casterly.
Yes, you could definitely do something interesting there.
There's definitely some fun things in there. So yes, so these guys, I realise now that I can see this picture like blown up on there, on that previous one. I tried to hide it. He's meant to have like little the wings on the helmet. They as I was despearing, those just went off. So there is Lion,
So
all finished up.
That's the Primarch himself,
who is huge by comparison to the Marines.
Well, I can also, I'll give you another little hint. He's not going to be the only Primarch that's going to be featured on Tankard Talk very soon.
I do, yes. Yeah, I was trying to basically follow the kind of the current scheme for it. So I was quite chuffed with actually how the armor came out on there. It gives that like black but green kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sort of jet green.
Yeah. Using Drukhari again. So it's Incubi Darkness and Cabalite green for kind of like essentially tiny edge highlighting.
I mean, that's commitment.
Well, yeah, like as I said, only the characters are getting this kind of treatment.
I don't even know
justify
that far.
Well, he's a Primarch, okay? Then yeah, he gets that kind of treatment. So yeah.
Special character.
And then we've got a little Tech Marine.
Yeah, I noticed a lovely little Dark Angels pad on there as well.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the Dark Angel symbol is actually very nice to paint because I literally just do it as a down pointing arrow, and at the scale it kind of reads like that. Actually, this one's quite funny because I've only repainted the shoulders and the bolter.
I'm assuming that was from another army?
Maybe, yeah.
How many times have you switched now? I can count at least three.
Three. I've only done it 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah, only three.
I think that counts.
Oh,
another one of these. And actually,
there's the wings this time.
There is the wings, and the wings do stand out beautifully. Like I'm very pleased to have the wings and standing out. But actually, the thing I really like is the power swords.
They are very nice.
I don't know whether to go. I think I'm going to leave the lion as is, but I think the rest are going to get this power sword.
Sorry, I'm just going to be back. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, it makes his stand out a little bit. It's different, doesn't it?
Yeah. Whereas like the others with the blue, it stands out really nicely without being like it makes them stand out as weapons, as like power weapons.
Yeah.
But yeah, with his, because it's kind of like it's so much bigger, and he's so much bigger. It just like it does make it feel almost more unique because it isn't that bright blue.
Here's a little pop quiz for you boys. Since we're on the subject of Dark Angels, and since you're going to be switching potentially to a Dark Angels army.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
So you've mentioned the wings of the Dark Angels. What is the title associated with the various wings? So what's the collective term?
I actually do know it.
You do?
The hexagrammaton? Hexagrammaton,
yeah.
Which is made up of.
Ooh, here we go.
So it's not I don't think it's actually the green wing. I don't think that made up the original.
No.
Because you've got the Death Wing, the Raven Wing, the Iron Wing, the Fire Wing.
Yeah.
Storm Wing.
That sounds right. I've got to be honest, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but those all sound right.
And there's one more that I can't remember because there's 6. The Firewing was actually the one that I hadn't heard anything about, and it's basically their like covert. It was their covert stuff. That just like they just go in and just be like cause absolute mayhem, and then
Okay, and I'll just one more cheeky bonus one. What is the name of the lion's sword?
The current sword.
The current sword.
Because the one that he had in the Heresy is now with Cypher.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Fealty?
It is indeed. I got to make sure you know your lore if you're switching an army.
See, I did come a little. I came a little bit prepared. I also, on this note, will also be getting some proper interrogator chaplains to go in there. Because the interrogator chaplains just look so good.
Some more rules to write.
They work if you just stick on a HQ base, but it would be fun to actually.
We need bonus. We need a bonus. We need because we need HQ base, but with different rules.
That was what I was going to say. Is like a hate because you might see in another picture that's going to hopefully come up on this.
That's probably not what you're thinking.
But yes, that's what I was thinking. But yes, nice little apothecary. It also gives me an opportunity to say the other reason why I wanted to go for the Dark Angels is it gives me an excuse for more red bolters because I love red bolters.
Yeah, you do have a love for the red bolter, don't you?
I do like
red bolter is good, to be fair.
If done right, I like them, but they're so often cartoonishly bad.
I just love the pop of color on them. That is a second bonus lion. I painted 2.
We have 2 lions.
I couldn't quite decide which pose I liked the best, and they're so small that I was like, well, I'll just make 2.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm definitely thinking that one of them is going to be like stood atop with like a flank of like the blade guard, and this one I have some wonderfully printed bodies which I think are going to be done up in a nice blue with maybe some lightning bolts.
All right,
nice.
I know someone who might not like that.
A la the Forge World heresy.
It's funny you say that actually, because one of the Primarchs that currently is sat on my painting desk is a blue armored lightning bolt clad Primarch that's sat on top of some green bodies.
And not that we've at all had, not that those two at all have any animosity between them.
No, not at all.
No.
Well, there we go. Now, this is interesting because that doesn't look green.
No,
it's blue.
Blue with yellow tubing and a big stave.
And a big stave. Yeah, that looks suspiciously like something I would enjoy.
It is indeed something you would enjoy. I have 2 little psychers, 2 little librarians.
I need to get me some of those for my Alpha Legion.
Yeah, I would say it is 2 so far. Potentially more on the way.
Nice.
Because I have some.
Oh, we've got even more Blade Guard.
There is 4 Blade Guard, and you would go, huh? That's a weird number. Normally you do 5 to a base. Mm-hmm. The answer is yes, I would normally do 5 to a base. However, whilst I was painting one of them, I had it on this little thing. I've got a little clip on a stick. I used to hold it. Mm-hmm. As I went to adjust it, it went pa-ching, and just disappeared. I have no idea where it is. I searched everywhere it could have been. It was not there. It is in the ether. So now I have 4. I have 4 Blade Guard.
Lost to the wall.
Literally, there, a little portal open. He just went, shoop, just in he went.
Wow. There's another apothecary.
Yeah. I also realised that basically every command squad should have an apothecary. I only have 2 at the minute. Mm-hmm. So I will be needing to do more. But yeah, two apothecaries so far. They're quite nice to do. Mm-hmm. I just literally just like the whole thing in white, and then basically like the contrast grey, essentially, the contrast white.
Apothecary white.
The apothecary white. Just kind of slap that over it, and it comes out like this, and I just go in and just highlight the details afterwards.
I have to say, when I've done my apothecaries, I've not bothered with apothecary white. I don't rate it. I just used the new non-oil.
In all fairness, I will actually say it is not apothecary white. Technically, it is Army Painter's Speed Paint Blinding Light, which is more like, if you imagine, because they do two. They do one which is called Holy White, and if you imagine, it's like Holy White is like grey. Apothecary White is like the next kind of level up. It's a bit more to white, and then this brings out them looking like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried that the non-oil might be a bit too darkening on it.
If you don't put too much on it, it works rather well. In my experience, I just prefer it.
Although I do have a thing that I'm planning on trying for my non-oil applications, which is a pack of water brush pens.
Ooh.
So I essentially can fill them with non-oil, and then comes with a brush, and I can just like apply them over. So I haven't had a try yet because I haven't needed to have a try yet. But I will report back hopefully next time with how that fares.
I should be interested to see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always looking for interesting new tools.
Second librarian
with their little plasma pistol.
Little plasma pistol, yeah.
Very cool.
And yeah, again, some. It was more just to be like I just went in and was like just did like a few little dots of a lighter blue just to essentially break it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that as I was looking at it, it looks like I've tried to do OSL on the helmet from the plasma pistol, and I'd like it noted. I am not planning to OSL at Legion scale. Like it's just like because it's just from the chin, it looks like it's just coming up from like the plasma pistol charging up, and I'm like, do not set me up to start having to do like OSL at this scale. I did it on one model, and I'm not planning on doing it again. And that was at 32mm scale. I'm not going to do it at Legions.
Yeah.
Although it would be very cool.
It would be. But yeah, I wouldn't.
It would be painful.
I wouldn't recommend anyone do it unless you're really into painting.
Well, or you're just going to do like a single model, and you're going to make that one model look beautiful.
Yeah.
Pop it on a Primark.
Yeah. I have seen some like I remember seeing at the Warhammer Fest somebody's like Golden Demon entry was just a singular like a singular Legions model, which I thought was hilarious. But that way does my madness. And yeah, another little tech priest.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I tried to do so. He's obviously got like a helmet, an unhelmeted head.
Mm-hmm.
So that one was just done with like basically white over it, and then a contrast for the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the equivalent of Gilman Flesh, but it's the Army Painter one.
Yeah.
Although
mixed results with the Gilman Flesh.
It seemed to come out all right. I mean, it stands out a little bit against the background. I'm not really expecting too much from it. It's going to get lost in everything else. It just had to look a little bit different. Although this one is funny. If you look too closely at the shoulder pad that I've painted the Dark Angel symbol over, it does say 4 in Roman numerals.
Does it?
Just ignore that fact.
If I've got 4, good to know.
Mystery. Don't think about it. Just don't think about it, okay?
There's no Hassan stripes hidden under their ends, though.
No, impossible.
Because that wasn't an army that you were going to do at some point, was it?
Look, I did Hazard Stripes and Terminators, and I realised I didn't want to paint Hazard Stripes anymore.
And a Thunderhawk.
And a Thunderhawk. But all of those are staying as they are. They can be, if we ever want to do a random contingent of Iron Warriors turns up, go to town. You're welcome to use them.
Cool. We've got a backup supply of other Legion.
Yeah,
just in case.
Just in case, just a few of them turns up.
Yeah, I'm sure we can work that into a story at some point. is that everything? It is indeed. So that is everything from the gentleman here. Well done. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. I'm very keen to see what happens with the Dark Mech.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a little bit of Mechanicus rep on the table.
Yeah, because that's the only official Legions army we don't have a representation for currently.
Yeah, and we do.
Not at all the reason why I was like, hey Joe, do you want to go do Dark Mechanicus?
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I like it. I should look forward to see what happens there. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some more Titans hit the table one day.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I shall be interested to see what happens there. We might have to have a discussion about that list you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be interested to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I'll send it over to you post-recording.
Cool.
I did see the list that Joe was talking about, and I then realised that I have no idea what the Mechanicus names are for everything. I looked at him like, yes. Indeed. These are words.
Yeah, you'll notice that I haven't mentioned what the name of these little spiders are, because
Yes, to be fair, I can't remember which ones they are. Something stalkers, those ones, I think.
It's the fact that the big ones and the small ones look the same, except for the fact that they're just different sizes.
Yeah. They're all grouped together under Stalker constructs, but they all have their own different ridiculous Mechanicus names.
Yeah, I got a vague idea of the Mechanicus, although I have to say I don't know much about them in terms of their Legion-specific rules, because I've not had the experience with them yet, so I'm going to be very interested to see what they do.
It is most exciting.
And then, obviously, presuming an army eventually appears, we may even see a Dark Eagles army.
Maybe. I'm getting there, just very slowly.
Yes. So, well done, gents. Good progress. So, I think that is it for Tankard Talk.
Mm-hmm.
Nice short one.
So, shall we move on to the main discussion and check out some brand new exclusive Mead Wargaming missions? We'll see you in just a moment.
See you over there.
And welcome to the main part of the show, where we generally have the four of us or three of us on the screen together. Sometimes I'll switch over to monologue cam, shall we call it? Which there might be a little bit of that today. We will see. So today, what we're going to discuss is that about 3 or 4 months ago, I wrote a series of missions and scoring cards similar to those found in Warhammer 40,000, the tactical mission deck. It's designed specifically for Legions Imperialis. Because with the experience that we've had playing the game, we wanted a bit more of a narrative feel to the games. And we wanted a little bit more flexibility in the way the game works, and to feel like it was more of a recreation of an event rather than a very complicated chess game.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I decided what I would do is I would actually create a set of missions that are designed around the principle of having an attacker and a defender, so an asymmetric mission system. And with that, I wanted to add the tactical card idea from 40k, which is one of the ideas I've really loved, because it kind of adds a dynamic approach to the game that changes from game to game as well. Ironically, Games Workshop literally about 2 or 3 weeks ago, as of this recording, just released a 40k series of asymmetric missions.
Yes, I saw the announcement. I haven't actually looked at them yet.
No, I haven't I haven't actually looked at the minutiae of the actual rules, but I just found it very funny that me and Nels have been playtesting some asymmetric mission rules for Legions, and suddenly they come up for 40k thinking they've done it again.
They've got I'm telling you, they've got the microphones hidden in the walls. You just need to check.
It's like every time I mention I'm going to do something, Games Workshop comes out with it.
Sorry, on this note, I had a brief period of time like this where I would mention something and be like, I really wish there were files like this. And then the files would appear.
Oh, yes. Well, we had to... You sent me something as a direct result of our previous podcast.
I mean, not even good. Yeah, right. So if you want something, make me think of the idea, and then it will appear, apparently.
Yeah. So, and actually, it happened with Legions as well. Literally, the day before they announced the new FAQ, me and Els were playing a game, and I was saying, Joe, one thing that really annoys me, one of the rules I didn't mention on the podcast last week is that I didn't like the fact that infantry triple move, because it just kind of made the transports feel less valuable. The FAQ that came out the day after, infantry no longer triple move.
Sorry, explain to me, how are they triple moving?
As part of the march order, infantry triple move rather than double.
Right, okay, yes.
Used to, now they don't.
Huh.
Nice.
So yeah, that was quite funny. I literally had that idea, and then 24 hours later, Games Workshop released that as an official change.
Made it an official change. Hilarious.
So I'm disappointed that I didn't come up with the idea a few days before to put it in the podcast, just so I could say I definitely had the idea first. So I can't prove it. But there you go. Hey ho. We have playtested one of the new rules though from last podcast, which was the new charging mechanic where we actually roll.
Mm-hmm.
Works really well. It adds a whole another level of dynamicness to that part of the game.
Oh, nice.
So we quite enjoyed that. So we've going to play it for another couple of games to see how it goes.
And it didn't it hasn't felt like it slowed it down at all.
Nothing. It hasn't felt like it slowed anything down.
Cool, but I mean that was in a certain way my concern of that rule would be that it would end up feeling slower because there's more time spent rolling dice. But yeah,
it had no impact on the flow of the game. We still finished our game in about 4 hours, I think, which is about average for us at the moment. We are slowly getting it down. Probably doesn't help that we keep adding new rules. But...
yeah, we need to avoid that rules bloat.
Well, in fairness, we're not adding rules, so to speak, we're just changing them. So it's sideways rather than expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll agree to disagree on that one in some ways.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
This next section probably is expansion rather than side grade. So, what I thought we'd do is I thought I'd introduce you first to the new mission ideas. Okay, so a lot of these are subject to change. We've play tested all but one of them so far, and so far they feel quite balanced. Both the attacker and the defender seem to be equally capable of winning the games from what we've played so far. But obviously, there's only 2 of us playing it, and we've only played it a handful of times, so we do need to play it a little bit more to really fine-tune it.
Yeah.
But once we're sort of happier, what I'm going to do is I will make these as an available resource for people to have a look at.
It'd be good to get people more people play testing it.
Yeah. So hopefully, what I'll do is I'll set up some kind of system where we can maybe get some feedback from the wider community.
Yeah, something like a Google Docs, something like that, so you can get people to leave comments and stuff on that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that's where this will go, but we want to playtest it a little bit more before we release it. But I'm quite happy to talk about it for now.
Yeah.
And give over some ideas. So keep things nice and simple. I've only done 4 missions for now because I need to get some practice making some rules. So the first mission, which I've tentatively titled, Activate the Relays. Okay. So essentially, in this mission, the attacker has a set of relays or devices that their units bring with them onto the table. So at the beginning of the game, you assign a number of units or detachments to be relay holders. Okay? And what you've got to do is you've got to march up the board with your relays and deploy them on objectives. And the attacker simply has to prevent you from deploying those relays. So they will score based on, let me just double check. So the defender scores points every turn for every relay that's not deployed.
Okay.
And they also gain a bonus if no relays are deployed in their half of the table.
Okay.
Whereas the attacker scores points for deploying a relay and also then gain more for relays they deploy on the defender's side of the table.
Okay. So, sorry, just a very kind of quick, if we don't mind a discussion around these as we're going through them.
Yeah, no, that's the whole point.
Is there I presume, is there a set number of relays that the attacker gets?
Yes.
You said it gets assigned to detachments. Is it 3, 5? Is it a?
So at the moment, I'm basing it roughly on game size.
Okay, so the bigger the game, the more relays.
So like a small game, you'd get 3. A standard Legions game around 3,000 points would be 4, and then bigger maybe 5, and then I will kind of sort of provide a sort of rough estimate of maybe every 1,000 points there should be a relay or a relay, 2 relays, whatever it is.
Okay.
So in addition to that, though, I have also introduced a mechanic to the game. Actions.
Makes sense.
Okay.
It's needed.
It is needed for this kind of thing to work. So actions, effectively, very similar to what they are in 40k. A unit sacrifices their activation during the combat phase of Legions to perform an action. An action is completed at the end of their combat activation. At the end of the combat phase of the game, unless they're infantry, in which case it concludes at the end of their activation. So infantry units will immediately, essentially, complete an action. Every other unit must wait until the end of combat before they achieve their goal.
Just a quick one in terms of that then, is, just so I'm getting the right terminology down, within Legions, what constitutes as a unit?
So a detachment.
Okay, so when you said, because I was like, oh, then if I had a unit, the bigger the unit, I'd be like, oh, I lose 1 base. But okay, so it's the whole detachment.
It's the detachment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense. I was just otherwise, it's one of those things of as I think about these things, wording is obviously very, very important.
Yeah, and that's me confusing 40k terminology with Legions terminology. So.
As if that's not something that we regularly do.
Yes.
Advance.
So, obviously, in this particular mission, there are 2 actions that can take place. There is the deploy relay action. There is also, the relay, the idea behind this mission is that the relays would be represented by a physical model. And if the detachment carrying it is destroyed, you actually have the option to pick up the relay and keep going.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, so the secondary action essentially is obviously pick up relay or something to that effect.
Is that limited?
In what sense?
To just the attacker?
Yes, at the moment.
Okay. Just thought the idea.
I suppose in theory you could allow the defender to pick up a relay, but
I'm just enjoying the idea of you shoot a unit off the board, you get a bunch of bikes to roll in, steal it, and book it off.
To be fair, I don't have a problem with that as an idea. It's not something I thought of, but
I think it would be a fun element of just like wind denial.
Narratively, it doesn't make any. It doesn't have any negative impact on the narrative, so I don't see why you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. Make picking up the relay universal action for both teams, but only the attacker can deploy.
I'm just picturing the Benny Hill bit of this unit like running away, and this other unit chasing after them, trying to regain their relay to score some more points.
Yeah, it could be interesting. It would actually be quite interesting because you could, especially if you're like a more aggressive faction, actually. So say for example, the defender in this scenario is World Eaters. You could almost imagine them charging out of their deployment zone, killing the guys with the relays, and just keep running into the opponent's deployment zone.
Now with the relays in hand, being like, "We're just going to take these. These are yours. We're going to return them via axe.
Return to sender." Yeah, I like it actually. That's quite cool.
Start clobbering enemies with relays.
Does the relay in any way, shape, or form affect like movement, or is it just kind of standard movement?
No, it's just a gimmick for the purposes of making the mission. And I'm trying to think of ways. So one thing I want to do with these missions is I also want to sort of have. I want to try and keep the title of the mission as generic as I can, but try and add a couple of optional flavor text, if you like, to sort of describe what the mission could represent.
Yeah.
So obviously, when I initially thought about this mission, I was thinking, an attacker pushing into a battle zone, deploying communication relays to, help facilitate communication on a battlefield network or something like that.
Yeah.
But this could represent something else. These could be, targeting relays for orbital bombardments, or they could be rally point markers.
Or if you're playing Night Lords, it's piles of corpses.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Which also means that I'm hoping that kind of idea means that you could potentially go away and say, "Oh, if I'm playing this mission, I'm the attacker. I could have my own version of the markers."
Oh yeah.
So
everybody brings their own little custom marker.
So as you say with the Night Lords, they could have like little cadaverous setups.
My head just immediately goes to the second Game of Thrones reference of the night. Apparently, the Bolton,
the Flame Man.
That's exactly where my mind went as well.
It's just so Night Lords.
Yeah. So something like that. So this mission kind of you can kind of style it how you like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I wanted. That's why I'm kind of going with all of these. So it will be quite nice actually as we go through is to have discussions about, this is what I've come up with, but what could you do? And you've already done that straight away, so that's fantastic.
I do I feel like if you're stealing the Night Lords ones, you're just like, ew.
Yeah, maybe infantry can't complete that at the end of the activation because it's too slippery.
Yeah. It's a roll. They either like fumble it.
Yeah, that could be interesting. So that's mission 1. So activating the relays.
Yep.
I feel like I might need to rename it maybe a little bit, just make it a little bit more generic, but we'll see.
I feel like that works. Like they're relaying fear.
Relaying fear.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, just very quickly. I'm full. Again, my mind immediately went to for the idea of the AdMech one is there's been something seeing some things recently about reminding me of Red Alert. I'm just imagining like a little Tesla towers, so it's like relaying energy across.
Yeah, nice.
I tell you what would be really fun. Actually, I'm just thinking. I don't know how we do it, and it's probably something I'd have to probably design and print myself, but. I'm picturing like a device, like a reverse drop pod. So you have it like enclosed, and then as you activate it, it peels open.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Yes, that would also be insane at this scale.
Yes, but then the relay doesn't necessarily have to be tiny because it is being transported or carried in potentially by 100 Astartes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? That's fair.
Yeah, so they don't have to be tiny.
I mean, it could be like a tracked kind of base thing that is that is rolling in with them.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of envision like little tokens where you've maybe got like a few servitors. Well, I say a few. I mean, it could be potentially quite a few. Like pulling, like there's like a scene. There is a scene in Space Marine 2, one of the operation missions where you have all of the like lines and lines of these servitors dragging a missile or something across the big track.
I know the mission. I think it's like it's like an artillery shell or something. It's because when you load onto the train, then you shoot the train at the Hive City. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you would do, rather than like in 40k where it'd be like a little computer terminal or something. In Legion scale, you're thinking like something big being transported across the battlefield. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So mission 2. Tentatively titled "Sabotage the Lines." Okay, now this one interacts more with terrain, so this mission would be better suited to denser terrain setups. Okay, so essentially, the attacker, the defender needs to select, depending on the game size, a number of terrain features that they must, or that count as their sort of key defensive locations. So it could be buildings, it could be a defense line, it could be a set of craters in theory, a dense patch of woodland, anything like that, any kind of area of terrain, okay, or structure. Okay. And essentially all they have to do is stop your opponent from getting onto it or into it, depending on whether it's a structure or an area.
Yep.
And then the attacker can perform a sabotage action. When they perform the sabotage action, that area of terrain or that building is sabotaged. And they score points. Yeah. Okay, so obviously I do have values for all these things, so there's no point in me chucking values at you without the context of playing the game. So currently the idea is, depending on the size of the game, that would dictate the number of features or structures that would be selected. So, and there's a provision in it that, say, for a small game, 2 structures or features must be in your defender's deployment zone, 2 must be in no man's land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, go on.
My only thought, and this again is more of like I'm whenever presented with rules to examine, I'm like, how can I break this?
Go for it.
But I guess my question around that immediately is like, what defines a terrain kind of feature?
Well, that is defined in the rulebook.
Okay.
So there is a definition of area terrain in the rulebook, and obviously a structure is a building generally. So that is.
But is there like is there a minimum size, for example?
Technically, no.
Because I'm just wondering if there's like if you could just turn and be like, I'm going to select this thing, and it's a tiny piece of terrain.
I mean, in theory, I suppose you could, but I'm also going to state here that these rules are not designed for competitive playing. So
you know what?
If that's the kind of person you are, don't play these missions because they are not meant for you.
I'm thinking about competitive play. I don't care about competitive play. Why am I thinking about it from a competitive perspective? I'm obviously going to pick the thing that is like, oh yes, this is clearly where my HQ is, and things like that. Yeah.
So I don't want to get bogged down in trying to make this like ironclad, perfectly balanced. I want it to be balanced enough that both players can win, but other than that, I'm not really that fussed.
On a slightly different note, I appreciate that. Yeah, we've got more missions to hear.
Mm-hmm.
In the other missions, or from this one, is there actions that the defender takes?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just the first two that have come in thus far is very much like the defender. I guess the defender is defending, but like there's not like an action that's set aside for the defender to do.
Yeah, no, there will be some.
Cool.
I think I'm 90% sure there's at least one.
Okay.
But obviously, I'm still playing with these ideas at the moment, so there is room for additions.
I guess it feels like the defenders are defending, which I guess is kind of the idea. So I don't really know.
That's exactly the idea.
There's not really much I can say in response to that one.
So
I'd be intrigued to see how you do like flavor to this one in the same way as the relay one. But it's not an essential, but it's just like it'd be interesting to see like how you would potentially do kind of flavor to it.
Yeah, so this one is a bit more difficult to define, so to speak. So obviously my initial thought, being an Alpha Legion player, is that maybe you're going in. So this mission's kind of themed around this is a vanguard force that's moving in to try and sabotage key points of the battle for the follow-up force coming in.
Yeah.
So you would you're not destroying features, you're just making them less defensible or placing forward traps or installing tracking devices and stuff like that.
Well, I think it'd be like and again, this is one where we would have to do numerous amounts of playtesting with it before we got to kind of the point of this. But just on that idea of like this is a vanguard force going in, of almost having like an asymmetry in the points as well.
That is something I want to look at, particularly when I start thinking about, say, siege battles or ambush battles. But there definitely should be some asymmetry in points. I think that I'm sticking at the moment with missions that are designed around symmetrical points for now. But I've already started thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah. Sorry, when you said the idea of like for ambush battles, I fully have the Total War. You get the line in the middle, and then the coming in from out the side. I'm like, I want to see that now.
that is pretty much my thoughts as well.
Like, I can see how this works, and it's beautiful chaos.
Yes, I'm well ahead of you on that one.
Yeah, I figured that if the second you were like ambush battles, I'm like, I know where your brain's going. You played more Total War than I have.
So there's some ideas there, but Sabotage is the one that it works as a mission. We've played this, so these two are two missions that we've played. We've played both Attacker and Defender each on both, and they both seem to work.
Yeah.
In conjunction, I must admit this as well, these work quite well in conjunction with the other rules we'll discuss as well, which is the tactical cards.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one's nice and straightforward, really. It's kind of take and hold with a little bit of action play as well.
So is there a mechanic for sort of how you sabotage? Like,
it's just an action, same as the previous mission.
Yeah.
It's just a reflavoured action.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Was it a case that you had to be in the building or in contact with it?
Either works, because obviously I have to account for the fact that some things can't enter buildings. In fact, 90% of the game.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
So the only provision is that the area that you want to sabotage must be uncontested.
Makes sense.
So literally no other units can be within 3 inches of that feature.
Yeah.
Nice.
That makes
cool.
So you do have to clear the area out to make it work.
That makes sense.
Okay. So that's the sabotage. So mission 3, which is the one that we have just started playtesting. So we have played a round. We've only played one round of this so far. It was
quite interesting. I should look forward to seeing how it goes next time. So this one is called Recover Artifacts, currently.
Mm-hmm.
I might just change that to something like Recovery. In this instance, the defender has a artifact, a thing that they're trying to protect, or more than one. So small games, currently I've got the idea that they'd have one, medium-sized games you'd have two, larger games you'd have three. At the moment, we'll see how that goes. And essentially, that artifact is given to a detachment, or each artifact is given to a detachment to hold, and they can sort of, maneuver around with this thing that they're protecting.
Mm-hmm.
And you score points continuously for just holding on to it. The attacker must come in, take it using an action, and then get it off the other side of the table. So you've got to go into your defender's territory, bring it back, and take it off your home board edge.
Okay.
Nice.
So, is there a... Because I was going to say, is it limited to just infantry that can carry the artifact? But that wouldn't make sense, because then you wouldn't be able to play as just like knights or just titans for it.
Yeah. So obviously the counter to that obviously is that knights and titans can do it, but they complete at the end of the combat phase. So it's quite an investment for a titan, because obviously they have to sacrifice their combat phase as well.
Yeah.
So
is there any penalty for being the one carrying the artifact?
No penalty, beyond obviously when initially grabbing it, you do sacrifice an entire turn's worth of combat, which is in and of itself significant.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of with that potentially running into issues is like, take the artifact, fly straight off.
That is something you can do, in theory. But it's actually a lot harder to do than you'd think.
Yeah.
Well, because, so the problem you got there, if I'm understanding it correctly, from not having played enough of it, would be you'd fly a flyer in. The only way you can embark troops onto a flyer is by putting the flyer essentially on the ground.
Yeah, you have to enter hover mode.
And then that flyer has to not shoot anything. The troops that are picking it up has to.
So there is a way you can cheese it a little bit. Essentially, the only way it could happen is if you'd have to get a unit up to the objective, you'd have to grab it, and then in the subsequent turn, you'd fly on with a transport that has a unit inside it, because you can only enter hover mode if you drop a unit after you've moved, or at the end of a turn. So if your second transport that's picking up has to have troops in it already.
Mm-hmm.
So you move up a unit during the game, grab the objective. The following turn, the flyer comes on, drops the unit that it's already got inside it. The other unit that's previously picked up the objective jumps inside the transport, and then at the end of the turn, you can then attempt to fly it off. So you've got to not only build up to being able to do that, you then also have the entire combat phase for the defender to shoot that plane down.
Yeah, like it's not gonna happen.
It could happen. In fact, in our game, it very nearly happened, because that is exactly what Els tried to do to me. Sadly for Els, I had a couple of Malcadors sat right behind the flyer.
That's not good for anybody.
No.
Points wise for the defender, what do they score points for? What?
So they hold points for maintaining control of the artifacts.
Just maintaining control of the artifact.
Yes. So to give you an idea in terms of points, currently what it's set as, the defender gets 5 points per turn they control it. Mm-hmm. The defender scores 25 for getting it off the table.
The attacker gets 25 for taking off the table.
Yes.
Okay. What defines being in control?
So it's same as an objective. So having more tactical strength on top of that marker, essentially. Unless it's obviously being held, in which case, obviously, if you're holding it, you have control of it.
Because could I not do the reverse?
How do you mean?
Could I not fly it off the board as the defender? We wouldn't. I'm just spitballing the idea of just like, I bring a flyer in, I load the artifact on, and I leave.
I suppose technically you could. So with that in mind, if I was to try and stop that from happening, I would simply just add in a little rule that says, if the marker leaves the board for any reason, the attacker gains 25 points.
Simple, easy, straightforward.
So I can reword that slightly. I don't mind doing that.
I don't know. I don't think it really needs wording because it's the most just like, I'm gonna be a problem today, and I'm gonna pack up my toys and I'm going home.
So yes, in theory, you could do that currently.
It's not a realistic thing to kind of.
No.
Do.
I mean,
although there is an interesting it could be that the defender doesn't score any points if it's not on the table.
Well, they wouldn't.
But is there an interesting thing of flying it off? Like say everybody's coming in, you pick up the relic, you fly it off the board, and then you come back in somewhere else.
No, I like where you're going with it, but I feel like that has too many potential problems. I'd probably have to start writing rules like you can only leave the table on certain turns and you must come back on straight away and stuff like that in order for that to work. So I'd rather keep it simple. But there's nothing to say that you couldn't do that if it was something you want to do for a particular narrative.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, that's not where I'd go with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously, in terms of theming this mission, I think there's quite a few different options.
Oh yeah, tons.
Yeah, obviously, the generic name of recover artifacts is quite a common one in 40k. Your opponent has some kind of archaeotech you want to get access to.
Yep.
It could be a kidnap job. Could be going in and taking out, capturing some key assets.
Yeah, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Could be going to recover prisoners.
Also fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's lots of different things. You can kind of theme this one quite nicely in a few different ways.
Yeah.
You could have something that you can do it in a couple of different ways, because if you could either do it as everybody has an artifact that they are trying to defend, or you go, this is the artifact that if you're say I'm the attacker, I could do this is the artifact I want to get back, and you're the ones who have taken it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My immediate first thought for Dark Angel would be the artifact would be a group of fallen. And it's we need to get them back.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do a rescue mission or something, you could just grab a couple of spare bases of units and say, right, these guys are my casualties from the previous battle. I want them back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you've got a cool commander base, maybe they've captured your Primarch. So yeah, there's this one. You obviously kind of come up with any kind of cool little tokens you want, or you could just grab a couple of 25mm base models and say, right, that'll do.
And just throw them on, and that's what you're trying to get back.
Depending on the theming as well. There's nothing to say it couldn't be a Titan.
Or parts of it.
I was going to say, I feel like we possibly need to think about the fact that tokens should be probably about a 25mm base size, otherwise...
Probably should be. But you could re-theme this mission in any way.
You could re-theme this mission in any way.
Because you could take this mission, because the whole point is, this is like a skeleton for you to then build on top of. So you can take this idea and say, right, okay, let's play a mission. We're still playing 3,000 points, and normally the mission says to have 2 artifacts. Well, actually, I want the artifact to be some kind of Titan, a derelict Titan that we want to recover. And so we're going to say, right, there's only going to be 1 artifact. And we're also going to say that the only units that can transport it are vehicles, super heavy vehicles, and knights. Because they'll strap it to there and then they'll drag it back across.
Yeah.
So infantry and stuff can't interact with it at all, which would be quite interesting actually, because it's kind of reverse to what we normally have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can kind of remesh this mission how you want, and that could be an interesting add-on to these ideas. Maybe I can take these missions and sort of have a couple of branching ones where you like this is an alternative version.
Yeah. There's a good amount of scope for like customizability with that, like flavor.
So hopefully that's something that could be quite interesting.
And there's definitely some food for thought there on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. So the final mission of my design so far, it has not been playtested yet.
Always fun.
But I'm reasonably confident this is going to be quite fun because it involves a bit of interaction from everyone now. This is quite an interactive one. Okay, so currently entitled "Evacuate Civilians." Okay,
go on.
So the attacker is escorting a number of transports from their deployment zone off the attacker's deployment edge. So you're basically doing kind of like a breakthrough mission.
Hold on, you said attacker twice.
The attacker is escorting transports from their deployment zone off the defender's deployment edge.
Cool. Otherwise, I envisioned we just need to turn around. I assumed that was what, but when you said the attackers, I was like, one of those two attackers is the wrong way round.
Yes. Yeah. So in this scenario, the attacker is the transport side.
The attackers are defending the transports.
Defending the transports, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, you could flip this terminology if you like, but because the way the mission's kind of designed,
you want to have the team that's going across to the other side.
Yeah, so that's why I've gone with the attackers, but it's irrelevant really. So effectively, your attacker gets a number of transports, roughly based on the size of the game. So my current thoughts is, around 2 for smaller games, 3 for mid-size, 4 for larger. Obviously, the larger you go, the more you might want to add in.
You can almost do what do you call it, like a transport per 1,000 points.
Yeah, something like that's probably a good shout. So each transport can be represented by a random transport model that you've created, bought, printed. Could just be a spare transport from your army. There's nothing to say that, this is where we come into the theming, but any transport model or any vehicle that makes sense to be a transport. Okay. Yeah. You basically attach those to a detachment a bit like a commander attaches to a unit, and you just travel up the board and try not to lose the transport. So, to make this a little bit more thematic, but also for gameplay mechanics-wise, make it a little bit more safer, shall we say, for the attacker. Because Legions can be quite killy, I don't want the transports to be something that can actually be physically targeted by a ranged weapon. So again, this is where the actions mechanic comes in nicely. Okay, so transports can be so you get the escort civilian action. So if a unit or a detachment, should I say, is destroyed, their transport is not destroyed; it remains stationary where it is, and another attacker unit detachment can wander up to that transport and take over the evacuation, and they will then join that detachment instead.
Yep.
However, the defender can destroy the detachment, approach the transport, and perform the destroy transport action. Okay, So thematically, think about it as, they want to make sure the contents are gone. So they're not going to risk just blowing out from afar. They're going to get in there and they're going to butcher what's inside of that transport.
They're going to make it personal.
They're going to make it personal. Okay. The exception to this is if the escorting unit is a Titan and the Titan is destroyed, Titans automatically explode in Legions. So a transport guided by a Titan, if destroyed, is also automatically destroyed.
Ooh, nice little bit of risk reward there. I like it.
Mm-hmm. So obviously the Titans are big, scary, stompy robots. They'll make it. If they don't, though, that is an automatic loss.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I presume that you could attach more than one transport to a single detachment.
Yeah, so again, because it's narrative, and the whole concept is you can essentially do what you want. So the token for the transport could be multiple vehicles rather than just one token.
Yeah.
So you can have like a convoy.
Yeah. So if you, for example, wanted to do, say, theme this mission as like evacuate the VIPs, you could have a series of Inquisitor-clad rhinos in like a convoy train travelling up the board. Or if you're considering more of like a military, like Astra Militarum sort of operation to transport their commanders through enemy lines, you could get a series of Dracosians together, or just a Dracosian, because they're nice big chunky transports, and transport them across.
Yeah.
Like, my immediate theming thought is a old model, and it's not for a faction that any of us are even remotely playing in this.
I have a funny feeling I know exactly what you're about to say.
What am I about to say?
I have a funny feeling it begins with land and ends with train.
No, it was not land train.
Was it not land train?
My thought was for like, they were the second edition or Rogue Trader era Gene Stealers, and there is a Patriarch limousine. Because like the old Patriarch model had basically like, the only way I can describe it, mob boss energy. So there is a Gene Stealer limousine, and just the idea of the VIP extraction is trying to get the Gene Stealer limousine out.
That could be quite fun. So yeah,
no, your idea is serious. My idea is dumb.
But yeah, so you can kind of theme this one quite a few different ways, which I quite like. Evacuating civilians, evacuating VIPs, transporting prisoners. Now you could almost re-theme this one into a kind of pseudo ambush mission where the attackers are actually doing a big prisoner transfer, and the defenders, and in this case you might want to change the jargon, coming in to relieve the transport. So instead of, you might thematically change destroy civilians to exfiltrate civilians. Right. Yeah. So same principle, but different theming.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, nice. That's good.
So I haven't tried that one yet, but I'm pretty confident that's going to be quite fun, I think.
I like the level of like playing customization with that. Like,
yeah, because it could literally be kind of anything that's being transported.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the 4 missions that I've kind of come up with at the moment, and they're very much, as you hopefully can tell, they are very asymmetric. The attacker has a very specific set goal. The defender generally is trying to stop the attacker from achieving their goal.
Yeah.
So you feel like your army in the battle has a purpose.
Yeah. No, I like it. They sound like they've got good theming, good ideas, good. Okay. Strong narrative aspects, and I can definitely see a theme around kind of like a way of theming all of them for every faction.
Yeah.
So, in addition to those as sort of the primary missions, I'm also introducing the idea of reintroducing an idea from 40k again. And I think this was in the older editions. It definitely was in older editions. I don't think I know. Where you actually place your objective markers as the players. So you get a set of objective markers to place on the field. I'm currently working on the idea that there will be a set number in each of the 3 zones of the board. So each player will get to place 1 to 2 or 3, however many, in their deployment zone. You then get a number that must be placed in no man's land, alternating which players place them.
Yeah.
Okay. So you will have a dynamic placement of markers. So you can actually place the markers around your nicely narratively curated boards rather than set positions on a map. I'm not sure about deployment maps yet. I haven't really faffed with that yet. But that's something I'll look at in the future, especially for certain missions where I think it's going to be much more prudent.
I was going to say, as a suggestion around both those ideas, from the placing, like, players place their own markers and deployment maps, I would have a gander at what One Page Rules has done. Because One Page Rules has that rule in place for you choose where markers go, and then it's like alternating back and forth. Like the player who wins essentially places the most markers. Like it's always an odd number of markers that they use. So you always end up with essentially an advantage by being the player that won. And then there is a ton of different deployment zone maps that you could have a look at and get some inspiration from.
I should definitely have a look at some options in that regard. So obviously we've discussed that obviously those are the attackers and defenders scoring methods for the primary mission. In addition, those markers will also grant you 3 victory points for controlling them.
Yeah.
Okay, as part of your primary. Okay, so there's still an incentive to hold the objective markers throughout the game.
Yep.
But there's also a whole set of secondary missions now as well. Well, obviously, Legions technically does have secondaries, but they're very static and only score at the end of the turn. We are now going to be using my tactical mission decks. Which obviously I've stolen very obviously from 40k.
I mean, they work.
But obviously rethemed them for Legions. Now, I will go through them all, but I'll go through them quite quickly because it's quite a lot. Okay. I think in total I have 2 decks, an attacker and defender deck, so each side gets different missions, different secondaries as well. So you actually have themed secondaries depending on your position. The exception, there's a slight exception. The first, I believe, 7 in each deck. So the first 7 cards in each deck are but the same, but the subsequent cards are unique to being attacker or defender. Okay. So you still are encouraged to act as an attacker or as a defender.
I mean, yeah, like. That is definitely, that makes it feel better than how they feel in 10th edition, where they're the same thing with different colours.
Yeah. And that's the thing I didn't really gel with. I feel like the attacker should feel like the attacker, the defender should feel like the defender.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll go through these relatively quickly so you get a rough idea of how they work, because obviously there are, about 25 odd unique ones here. Okay. So the universal ones, we've got balance the field. So you get 3 points for at the end of a battle round for having an equal number of units in no man's land as your opponent. 5 points if you have more than your opponent. Okay. So controlling in the middle of the board. Objective number 2: decimate forces. Destroy 2 units for 3 points. Destroy 4 units for 5 points. And when I say units, I should say detachments. I need to definitely change the wording on these cards.
I know what you mean.
Number 3 is an 8-point mission. Okay. So at the end of the battle round, end the battle round with at least 3 friendly units, each with 50% or more of their starting tactical strength from the beginning of the battle round, also wholly within no man's land or your deployment zone.
Okay.
So essentially, don't lose more than 50% of your hit points on 3 units. I can't remember if that's one that I found was a little bit too easy or a little bit too hard. There's a couple of these that do need tweaking.
I mean, there's always going to be, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Claim the Centre. As you can imagine, what this one might be. End the battle round with at least one friendly unit wholly within 6 inches of the centre of the battlefield. For 3 points. For 5 points, you can get 5 points by ending the battle round within 6 inches of the centre and no enemy units within 6.
Cool. Yeah.
Card number 5 is Shatter the Resolve, which is also an 8-point mission card, which is destroy the enemy unit with the highest tactical strength from the start of the battle round. If 2 or more tied, the opponent selects the target. Okay. So generally speaking, these will be infantry units because they tend to have the highest tactical strength. Okay. So basically, you want to. It's essentially saying, right, that unit's the best at taking objectives. Kill it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 6, balance the battlefield. 3 points. End the battle round with at least one friendly unit wholly in your deployment zone and no man's land. 5 points for having at least one unit in your deployment zone, no man's land, and the enemy deployment zone. Okay. Number 7, which is the last of the universal ones, which is secure the flanks. 3 points for having at least one unit wholly within 8 inches of either the left or right side of the battlefield. 5 points for both.
Yeah. So in terms of the number of secondary missions that you do, so how many secondary missions do you get?
So you draw 2 at the start of each round.
Okay.
Well, you draw 2 at the start of a round, and then you obviously discard them at the end if you've completed them, or you can optionally discard ones that you haven't completed at the end as well. If you don't feel like you can complete the next round, you then draw at the start of every battle round up to a maximum of 2.
Okay. There's one which was, unless I misheard you, was like having something at the very end of the game.
No,
or was it the end of the round?
They're all end of round.
Cool. Right. Sorry. I think I misheard when you said it. Okay. Yeah. That was the only one that I can't remember which one it was that you said, because there was a few in there.
they almost all say at the end of the round.
Yeah. Cool. That makes more sense. It was slightly sticking in my brain of just being like, at the end of the game, why would you have that as a secondary? But yeah, okay, that makes far more sense that you meant that it was end of the round, and I just misheard.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I mean they all sound good. They all sound like good, flavorful secondary missions.
So, attackers, they get something called Break the Line. So at the end of a battle round, end the battle round with at least one unit wholly within your enemy's deployment zone.
Nice.
End the battle round with at least 2 or more units in the enemy's deployment zone.
Okay.
Nice and simple. The next one is Seize the Stronghold. This is an 8-pointer. Basically, at the start of the battle round, your opponent selects one objective marker in their deployment zone. If you control that objective marker at the end of the battle round, you score 8 victory points.
Cool.
Okay.
Nice.
Next card, Overrun No Man's Land. 3 victory points, control at least one uncontested objective marker in No Man's Land. Or for 5 points, 2 or more. Next one, Assassinate High Command. Oh yes, this also links into the idea that I would also introduce the concept of having a warlord into the game as well.
Yes.
Okay. So, this one, as you can imagine, is an 8-pointer, destroy the enemy's warlord unit. If this card cannot be achieved due to that unit already having been destroyed, discard this card and draw a new one.
Cool, easy, straightforward.
Yep. So yes, obviously, something I kind of forgot to mention, every army will now have to have a warlord, which is pretty much specifically for this rule. Whether we then add other rules to it is irrelevant. Next card, Sabotage the Defences. Complete a Sabotage action at an objective marker in No Man's Land for 3 points. Complete a Sabotage action at an objective marker in the enemy's deployment zone for 5 points.
Cool.
Okay. And actions are just, as we said, just forgo the rest of your activation in a combat phase.
And if you achieve both of those, then it's worth 8. Cool. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So advance the front. Have at least one unit within No Man's Land. 5 points. Have at least one unit in both No Man's Land and the enemy's deployment zone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Deliver the payload. Now this one's a little bit more involved, but it is an 8-pointer. So at the start of the battle round, secretly nominate one friendly unit as the payload carrier. Your opponent secretly selects an objective marker in No Man's Land or their deployment zone. At the end of by the end of the battle round, so once you've both secretly selected, reveal.
Right. Okay.
Your then objective is to get that unit within 3 inches of that objective marker.
Okay.
For 8 points. Okay.
So it's not control, it's just get
not
within
control,
3.
just get within 3. Okay. Now, I didn't want it to be control because obviously you could be in a really horrible position of like, oh, I selected the unit on this side of the board and you selected the objective marker on that side of the board. Oh, that's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Okay, but it is an 8-pointer and it is actually not that hard to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a nice little bit of interplay where you both secretly try to figure out each other a little bit. Like, which objective is he going to pick?
Yep.
Okay. So storm the objective is the next one. Take control of at least one objective marker controlled by your opponent at the start of the round for 3 points, 5, 2 or more. And then finally, for the attacker, we have pressure the flanks at the end of the battle round with the highest tactical strength within 2 or more table quarters, and end the battle round for 5 points with at least 3 or more table quarters with the highest tactical strength.
Cool.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Relatively simple.
Relatively simple.
Yeah.
I don't mean this in I don't mean this in a negative way, but they sound very much like GW rules.
I mean, that is exactly what I was going for, so that's not a negative.
Yeah.
That's a positive.
I didn't want to be like, I meant it more from the perspective of they sound simple and straightforward, not they sound like you ripped them off.
Yeah. I mean, they're heavily inspired by Games Workshop rules, quite clearly. I've got to fit them in a Games Workshop game system, so
yeah.
If they sound like Games Workshop wrote them, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
So the defender. Okay, so this is where we get a different set of objectives. So, if I remember right, the attack in this deck, I think I've named 2 of them the same. So I need to go and change that at some point. So currently we've got Hold the Line. So 3 victory points, no enemy units wholly within your deployment zone at the end of the battle round. 5 points, no enemy units wholly within 12 inches of your battlefield edge. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one, Fortify Positions. Increase the total tactical strength of friendly units controlling at least one objective marker in your deployment zone. So, essentially, all you've got to do is add another detachment or move another model closer to an objective to increase the tactical strength.
Cool. Easy. Yeah.
For 5 points, you must double it.
Ooh.
Okay.
So, depending on how you position things, that could either be very easy or very hard.
I was going to say that. Yeah, that feels like that could swing either way quite wildly.
Yes. Essentially, when you're playing this, what I would suggest is what you don't do is just put all of your infantry in a circle around an objective, because then you'll never achieve that objective ever. But if that's the case, well, is what it is. Okay, so next one is deny access. Ensure no enemy units are controlling any objective markers in no man's land at the end of the battle round. This is an 8-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Fun but difficult.
Yeah. Secure vital ground. Complete a secure vital ground action at an objective marker in no man's land, or complete 2 in no man's land. That's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The defenders get defend the stronghold. Ensure a specific objective marker in your deployment zone chosen by your opponent remains in your control and uncontested at the end of the battle round.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
Intercept. Destroy one or more enemy units that moved through or into no man's land during this battle round. Destroy one or more units that did those things. Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Protect the VIP. Choose a friendly unit as your VIP at the start of the battle round. Ensure the chosen unit survives the battle round without losing more than 50% of its starting wounds.
Okay.
Suppress the advance. Destroy one enemy unit that performed an advance or charge action during this round, or destroy 2 or more units that performed an advance or charge action.
What if nobody does that?
Then you can't achieve it.
Okay.
But then you've also got to think that if the opponent is on purposely not advancing or charging, that means they're either only moving. They're only first firing, which means you're locking them into certain positions, or they're marching, and therefore only potentially firing point defense weapons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, we've got defensive retaliation, which is destroy at least one enemy unit within your deployment zone, or destroy 2 enemy units in your deployment zone.
Yeah. Again,
Nice.
yeah, makes it. Yeah, it'll make sense there.
Yeah.
They all seem very simple and easy to understand.
Cool. That was the goal.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much it, really. So combine those with these sort of narrative missions, you kind of get this sort of... You have a primary mission and objective, which nets you quite a lot of points overall. But then you have these sort of side missions that you kind of decide when or if you want to try and achieve them. And some of them are quite nice. You kind of complete them almost during as the game kind of continues anyway. But some of them do kind of force you to rethink your entire game plan. Certainly for that round.
Yeah. Or you just kind of go, I'm in a position where I can't do this, and you just let it go.
Yeah, and there's like in the Defenders deck, what I like about it is there's a couple that like require the attacker to do certain things. So like one of them is kill units that move into or through no man's land. Well, the attacker can see you've drawn that and they're like, well, if I just don't move in or through no man's land, you can't score it. And then the defender's like, yeah, but then you can't get into my deployment zone. Or
you can't do the thing that you want to do, which is get across the board.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I try to design it, so that you can counterplay them, but when you counterplay them, you're also denying yourself at the same time.
Yeah, it sort of balances itself out that way as well.
It's a good mechanic.
Yeah,
I like it.
So that was the idea.
Cool. Yeah, I like it. I'm looking forward to trying them actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is my take on missions for Legions and my way of scoring.
Yeah. I'm sure GW will release an update to Legions Imperialis, which brings in secondary missions next week.
Wouldn't surprise me. Probably just before I release this as well.
Yep, just before you release it, so
before.
everybody thinks that you've copied them.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, so that is the be-all and end-all of what I wanted to sort of present and discuss today, really.
Go.
So that obviously people who watch this can get a feel for what we're planning to do. Because hopefully in the not too distant future, battle reports are coming. I know we've promised that many times, but you can see now in the background, very, very slightly there, the boards are coming together. We are almost ready. And I've almost painted enough armies.
I think you've painted more than enough armies.
I've just got one more to finish. So we're close. We're getting there.
Perfect.
So yes, hopefully we will see some new stuff very soon.
Yeah.
So
looking forward to it.
Okay, so that's everything we have for discussion time. So let's head into a round table and close out today's session.
Yeah.
So see you in just a moment. And welcome back. So today we have had a lovely little look at some hobby progress and hobby side tangents from the team.
We're all committed now.
I'm looking at you, John.
I don't know what you're on about. I eventually, I feel like it just takes me a little bit of time. You know, I've got to do the swing. I've got to do the swing back and forth. Yeah, I started off too hard, which was Iron Warriors. Then I went to Word Bearers. I thought they were too easy. And now I found the middle ground.
Mm-hmm. So the hexagrammaton of the Dark Angels with some knights.
Well, I mean, actually, it's more the specifically the 3 wings because I'm going to do them 40k style.
Oh, yeah.
So rather than all black.
Yes, that will probably look better. And obviously, potentially, we're going to see a Dark Mechanicus enter the field, which
the first Mechanicus presence.
Yeah, I'm quite keen to see what Dark Mech can do, and I like the crab stalkers. They look cool. Or spiders, whatever you want to call them.
They're fun. They're very fun.
So I'm very much interested to see what that looks like. And to be honest, anyone who's going to be bringing more knight style units and titans definitely gets my vote. So we've seen that, and then in our main discussion, it was more of me presenting the new rules, new missions, and scoring system that I'm going to be implementing into our games, which will obviously set the backdrop for all of our missions that will take place, both in our casual games, but also eventually on the channel as well. Mm-hmm. And I will be able to sort of soft confirm that some new content is coming relatively soon. So with the approaching conclusion of my initial terrain setup and the final touches to a Night Lord's army, we will actually start recording some new content, and that will start off with the How to Play series that I'd like to do. And then following that, we will begin our foray into narrative Legions gaming on the channel.
I'm actually very excited for that How to Play because I actually want to watch it.
Yeah, so hopefully that's not too far off. I'm setting myself a realistic goal of being ready to start. Well, to have planned it by the end of the month. I don't think I'm going to start filming it before the end of the month, but I think the plans will be ready by the end of the month. So hopefully we'll look to start recording it in the first couple of weeks, and then we'll start maybe kicking some parts out maybe by the end of next month.
Exciting.
So it depends how long it's going to take me, because obviously this is kind of new. that hopefully won't take too long, because they're going to be quite short videos. So
yeah, I think, and that's definitely what's needed, because like then you can go back to like
it's going to be
go back to whatever they need to go to.
Yeah, it's going to be broken up into a playlist of 2 to 5 minute videos, so you can literally just jump into the bits you need when you're going back through.
Perfect.
So hopefully that will work really well for everyone while they're playing games as well. So that's the plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it really. I'm hoping that you have enjoyed my attempt at creating some rules. Hopefully you will be interested in seeing them fully furnished and written out and released.
Yep.
So when that does happen, obviously please do get involved. We will find a way of setting up some kind of feedback system, whether that is through a Mead Hall official email address or some kind of feedback system through Google, or maybe a Discord server, potentially.
Maybe.
So there's a few options we need to play around with. In the meantime, though, if you'd like to provide some thoughts, whether we're going in the right direction, wrong direction, you can obviously pop them in the comments. And we do, I do try to get onto the comments. I know there's a couple of comments that have been on the last video as of recording, which I haven't got to yet. But obviously, I've been quite busy doing other stuff. But we will get to them, and we will obviously enjoy the feedback. And
we are happy for any engagement people do.
Absolutely. And please do send in projects for us to look at. We don't just want to look at our own stuff on Tankard Talk, because we look at our own stuff all the time.
Yep.
Believe it or not, we have a group chat. We share it all the time.
I don't know. I like to hide it just so that there isn't at least something to talk about in Tankard Talk now.
Yeah, you do.
And also so you don't shout at me for painting things that aren't what I'm meant to be painting.
Yes. I've also discovered during this podcast that there's been secret conversations going on behind my back.
They weren't. The conversations were had during sword fight duels, so that's an entirely different thing.
Interesting. That requires clarification maybe after this recording. Okay. But with that being said, thank you very much for joining us. I have been Jay, your host here at Mead Hall Gaming, and I've been joined by
John.
Please do go and check us out on social media. That would be Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Check out the comments as well. And until next time, we will see you in the Mead Hall. Bye-bye for now.
Goodbye.